Welcome. I'm Tita Chico, Professor of English and Faculty Director of the Center for Literary and Comparative Studies at the University of Maryland. We convened this year-long series on anti-racism to act on statements of solidarity for Black Lives Matter, issued by the university, the college, and the department. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Black Lives Matter. With this series, we also honor the memory of Second Lieutenant Richard Collins III, a young Black man who was about to graduate from Bowie State University when, in May 2017, he was murdered by a white supremacist on a University of Maryland campus bus stop. Second Lieutenant Richard Collins III, Black Lives Matter. The grounds of the University of Maryland are on what is now known as the state of Maryland. But these grounds, this land, this is the original homeland of the Anacostan and Piscataway tribal nations. The University of Maryland has buildings that name but seem to forget this indigenous history. Today, our focus will be on student activism. In 1968, Black students on the University of Maryland campus formed the Black Student Union, focusing on equality and Black student solidarity. In 2020, Black students on campus gathered together to develop a community coalition called Black Terps Matter. In this series, we have been asking, how can anti-racism help us to imagine and make a better future? Today, we ask, how does student activism help make this better future possible? For this discussion, we are absolutely delighted to welcome two student activists and to highlight their important work on campus and beyond. Saba Tshibaka is a senior at the University of Maryland. She is an entrepreneur, activist, critic, author, scholar, and business mentor. A passionate advocate for education and the socioeconomic empowerment of women and girls across the globe, she's a student leader and activist involved in many groups and activities promoting diversity and inclusion. She spent 3 years in various clubs' executive boards, 2 years as a tutor with the Academic Achievement Program, and a year as a manager at the College Park Black-owned business Milk and Honey. She's also held internships with the U.S. Department of Treasury and Google. She is the co-founder of Black Terps Matter at the University of Maryland, an anti-racist coalition. Aniyah Vines is a Howard University junior and the founder of the Live movement, which organizes students at historically Black colleges and universities. From North Carolina by way of Brooklyn, Vines' family has always taught her the importance of justice and made her aware of the inequalities in society. Her passion for justice was ignited upon her completion of the Justice and Injustice course led by Juror Doctor Davis during her experience as a 2016 Duke T.R.A.P scholar. Her passion became action after she and her family experienced the senseless murder of her cousin, Delrawn Smalls, who was killed by an off-duty police officer in Brooklyn. She currently serves as Howard University's NAACP president and continues her volunteer and mentorship within various juvenile diversion programs in Charlotte, North Carolina. Currently, she's embarking upon her personal vision of change through her nonprofit organization, T.R.A.P, True Rehabilitation and Prosperity, which focuses on the implementation of strategic programming for youth that have been impacted directly and or indirectly with the criminal justice system. Our speakers will be joined today by our colleague in the Department of American Studies, Professor Christina Hanhardt, whose research focuses on the historical and contemporary study of U.S. social movements and cities since the mid-20th century, with an emphasis on the politics of stigma, punishment, and uneven development. The Center's Antiracism series is co-sponsored by the University Libraries, the Graduate School's Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and the Petrie Foundation. With this support, we're able to commit to making these events accessible with live captioning. Thank you to Danielle Griffin and Liam Daly, the Center's graduate assistants, and as always, a very special thank you to Dr. Karen Nelson, co-director of the Center and director of research. Our program will be 1 hour. Now, I please ask that you join me in welcoming our guests for student activism. Thank you.
Welcome to our discussion today. I'm so honored to be here, and I really want to thank Tita Chico for the invitation to moderate this discussion today, and to Karen Nelson and Danielle Griffin for all of the work that they're doing for this series. So this year has seen a tremendous groundswell of activism all across the country, and in fact, much of the world, in a broad social movement for Black lives. Building on generations of Black liberation struggles and in solidarity with other movements, activists have taken aim at police violence, economic inequality, health disparities, among much else. And at the forefront of these movements of this past year have been young people, and has been the case with so many of our major social movements of the past century. Students have played a primary role. I'm just so excited to hear today from two student activists, Saba Tshibaka from the University of Maryland and Aniyah Vines from Howard University. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask a series of questions that they're going to respond to get the conversation going. And then after we've gone through these questions, we're going to open up for a Q&A from all of you. So I'm going to get started right now. So I want to start by just asking if each of you can tell us a little bit about your organizations on campus, how and when they were founded, the main goals of these groups, and sort of active campaigns that you have going on today.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Aniyah Vines. Thank you so much for the eloquent introduction. Just to tell you a little bit about my organization, the Live Movement, standing on the foundation that we must live for those who have died, making sure that we pay homage to those who came before us by continuing on the fight and making sure that it's known that the fight is not yet over. This is just the beginning, and there's a lot of change that has to be made in our society. The Live Movement has two pillars. We are focusing on racial equity and educational equity, knowing that just as important to pass on the message of building up our minds again. In the era of chattel slavery, the first thing that was broken was the slave's mind in order to keep the person in bondage. So that in itself is a battle of its own. And I felt as though, having an organization that focuses on that, and of course, being a Howard University student, being the president of the Howard University NAACP chapter, I felt as though it was my responsibility to do so. So making the Live Movement, picking up momentum and shedding light on educational inequities in America, and shedding light on the needs in regards to HBCUs. People, thinking that they are illegitimate compared to PWIs, and that not being the case, making sure that we have an organization that advocates on behalf of HBCUs. So super happy to be here again. And that's just a little bit about the Live Movement. There are a couple, initiatives that we've done. The biggest one was Tent City, which is where I actually met Saba here. She helped me organize Tent City, which was an 8-day sleep-in outside of the U.S. Department of Education, in which we were there 8 consecutive days fighting for educational equity. We had several demands, one being to meet the previous Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. And though she did not come out, I know that we definitely made an impact. And they knew that, there are people here that will continuously be fighting for educational equity in America. But just another one of our demands, having an African diaspora studies and public school curriculum as a requirement in order to graduate. There are a lot of things that are omitted from whitewash textbooks, and a lot of students just cannot connect with the textbooks that they read now. So giving them a little bit of their own history, giving them some self-confidence and seeing themselves as more than just, slaves, their ancestors only being in shackles, but knowing they come from royalty, knowing they come from a lineage of kings and queens. That's extremely important to know. So just a little bit about our initiatives and how I was able to meet my now best friend's sister. So yeah, I'll give it up to you.
Thank you so much, Aniyah.
Okay.
I appreciate that. And hello, my name is Saba Tshibaka. I am a senior at the University of Maryland. My major is philosophy, politics, and economics, and I'm the co-founder of Black Terps Matter, which is an anti-racist coalition that we started on June 25th, 2020. And so Tita already mentioned it at the beginning of this. A big issue that all of the people that say that they support Black Terps Matter has is the lack of respect for Black students, both at UMD and ones that just visit the campus on the weekends with their friends, like Lieutenant Richard Collins III. And so in our inception, we absolutely centered him and his family, his foundation, but we also, being anti-racist, there's a lot of things that you need to do to kind of fight the system and battle with it and see success. So we had a protest on June 25th, 2020. That's actually when we started. And since then, we came into Zoom meetings and working groups with many different parts of campus, including the administration and VP of Student Affairs, Patty Perillo, and the second ever Black president, President Daryl J. Pines. And we've been able to really try to work together to get some basic rights for Black students and all marginalized communities on campus. So I thought it was interesting that one of the things that Aniyah brought up was that during Tent City, we were advocating for what we were advocating for. One of the things that Black Terps Matter was had as our demands when we first started was making African American Studies a required class. Any of the introductory classes, making it required for students. So that's one of the demands that we had when we started on June 25th. And so now it's March of 2021. We're almost a year into the movement, and we have done so many things. I'm so happy to say we've made so much impact around campus that I can't even point to any one specific thing that Black Terps Matter, did in this one point, but it is a coalition that's made up of 3 Black women, myself, Nadia Owusu, and Alyssa Conway at Maryland. Both, or all 3 of us are Black women seniors. And honestly, all I can say is that I'm really glad that we're able to make the impact that we have over the last 9 months now, and I'm glad that to say that we're able to put a lot of pressure on the administration and see some large systemic change. Like we got the provost to resign, and that is something that many student activists before our time have had huge issues with the provost at the University of Maryland. So we're looking forward to bring in a new class of individuals that are interested in organizing so they can continue to put pressure on the administration and everyone else that needs to have pressure put on them.
Great, thank you so much. So one of the things that you already suggested here is the real differences between predominantly white institutions and HBCUs. And I was wondering if you can talk a little bit, because of the ways in which you have worked in coalition and collaboration with each other, what you see to be some of the precise differences between your 2 campuses, between a public university in which only 12% of undergraduates identify as Black and a private HBCU. Like, what are the different challenges each of you face? Are there ways that you're able to support each other? What do you can you talk about those connections?
Yeah, so there are definitely, I feel, pros and cons to each. Of course, me going to Howard, I can speak on behalf of HBCUs. Historically, HBCUs have been underfunded. Historically, HBCUs, in light of, in comparison to PWIs, have been proven to be less than and illegitimate. And, this is something that's not just a recurring thing or something that just happened, but even in the time of W.E.B. Du Bois, him being a Black man and advocating for HBCUs, he was left out of a lot of journals. He was not looked at as a scholar in a lot of people's eyes. And with that being said, historically, we have been underfunded on purpose because it is a place where it is black magic. And the purpose of having HBCUs is because no white institutions would accept us. No white institutions would open their doors and say we deserved education. So people who had the means to do so opened up institutions that said we will open the doors to Black and brown individuals. We will open the doors to create a safe space in which Black and brown individuals can support each other. Black and brown individuals can create opportunities, network, and grow bigger. And of course, I'm honored to go to Howard. But, you know, seeing the differences in PWIs and HBCUs is, you know, a HBCU is kind of like a bubble. When you get out of it, you go into a world in which a majority does not look like you. So I'm blessed to go to a HBCU because it has instilled in me a confidence I know it can take away. But at the end of the day, a lot of kids don't even know what HBCU stands for, and that's a problem. A lot of kids, you know, are in schools and are being told, you know, you want to go to a institution that's quote unquote diverse, when the reality is you're either going to go to a predominantly white institution or predominantly Black. Which one do you want to choose? And reminding our Black and brown youth that HBCUs, when it comes to instilling your Blackness and being ready for a world that a majority of the time is not going to look like you, that's usually the best way to go, so that you're ready for that, you know, so that you're not going down on yourself and feeling as if you don't belong, understanding that you own whatever space that you're in. That's certain lessons that you can only learn in a Black space. And in regards to going and reaching out to students that go to PWIs, like us sitting here represents, you know, a coalition of PWI Black students, HBCU Black students, you feel me? So at the end of the day, one thing that we can do is start making connections with Black students that go to PWIs and HBCUs and say, how can we help? Having more conversations, because I've heard firsthand, you know, problems in which Saba and other Black students at UMD have faced, trying to have their voices drowned out or trying to, you know, pacify their demands and try to give them crumbs when they deserve the whole pie. And that's a huge problem. And I feel like, you know, HBCU students can definitely help ignite and unite and stand in solidarity to amplify their voices, and realizing that, you know, we all have struggles that are separate institutions, but with unity comes power, and with power comes change. So just having that conversation and start making connections with Black and brown students at PWIs, that's my goal, and that's one of the Live Movement's goals as well.
Yeah, and honestly, Aniyah just said everything that needed to be said, but I just want to add that college is what you make of it, both at PWIs and HBCUs. Both of us are extremely serious about our work and organizing the community, so we actually have an extremely different experience of college than other people. So I don't want to sit here and act as if we can possibly give like an entire Black student perspective on HBCU, because it's a whole debate. Like if you go on Twitter and you search up HBCU versus PWI student debate, like everyone can say so much about it. But I want to say, like, honestly, especially to any students that watch this in the future, that college is completely what you make of it. Aniyah doesn't even go to parties. So like our experiences are extremely different. Personally, I went to a lot of parties in college and I met a lot of people at parties, and some of my relations are from that. And that is already something that I am so privileged to be able to say, you know, I was able to connect with Black students. You said UMD is only 12% Black. The fact that I was able to connect with the other Black students at the school is a blessing. It's literally a blessing. And the fact that I've been able to be so involved in all of these different organizations are also a blessing. And I say often with our friends that to be an organizer, it's a privilege, because you have to have so much. You have to have time, you have to have energy, you have to have the will to give and not expect anything back. So, and that's kind of like where we're at as organizers. So we're not really talking about the HBCU PWI like debate like that, but we are hosting events like we have movie nights. That the first ever one, we watched The Wiz. Aniyah was there, I was there. Our friends from the Palm Collective were there, our family from Palm Collective, I should say, were there as well. At a voter registration booth, and that was in October, we had one. And then since then, we're able to have more than 5 more. And so in those spaces, we actually bring together specifically students from different schools, PWIs, HBCs, or the different students at Tent City, the different schools that they went to.
We had Howard, we had
Bowie,
we had UMD, we had Clark Atlanta,
GW.
Yeah, we had GW.
UDC Law.
Yeah, it was a melting pot.
Yeah, of all different schools, we had different organizations from different schools come out. Like there was a Sunrise chapter from GW that came out. And so we had various movie nights where we connected with each other based on, you know, what we were watching. Some nights we'd watch stuff like School Days by Spike Lee. And one night we watched the presidential debate, the final presidential debate. That's around the time that we had Tent City.
Yeah.
So we are definitely looking for opportunities to bring students of diverse backgrounds together, no matter where they're from or what kind of school they go to. We understand everyone has something different to give to the movement, and everyone has something different to teach someone else. So that's really how we feel about making sure to bring together HBCU students and PWI students.
All right, I'm going to ask 1 or 2 more questions before we turn to our audience. And I'm torn as to which way to go here, because one of the things that's so exciting about hearing about the work that the Live movement does and that Black Terps Matter does is that you seem to both work in coalition across campuses and in the DC area and working in local DC politics, but that you also seem to be engaging with other student activists on your campuses as well. So I'm wondering, in either direction, if you can talk about like who you see as your comrades in struggle on your campuses, like what other groups on organizations that you work with, or different stuff in DC that you find the most exciting, specific campaigns that are involved in the city there that you might want to talk about.
So I'm going to take the campus one, and Aniyah is going to tell you about the different DC organizations that we work with, because we do. Partnering and creating relationships is the most important thing. Is the most important thing to us. We don't even want to be in the space if we don't know, like, if we're welcomed and people want us there, and also what the issues are. Because like, why are you going into a space if you don't actually know what they need? And you're not trying to, you know, create impact like that. So at UMD, we definitely are trying to inspire students to organize. Primarily, there is no other organization like Black Terps Matter, and there never has been, quite simply. So, and I'm very happy to say that it's not a bad thing, and it's okay that there's a lot of organizations that weren't active last semester. At the end of the day, we got what we needed to get done. And sometimes I wish that there were more people that were involved so that they can look back on it and say, you know, in such times of struggle, we're able to persevere. There wasn't many, but the ones that were there that we were able to talk to are Preventing Sexual Assault. That is an organization that we work with a lot. That's one of the only organizations that did any advocacy around voter engagement. And that's really sad to say. The Democrat caucus or club or whatever on campus didn't have a single post on their Instagram page in an election year. And, you know, we're talking about this is the same year that we had John Lewis pass away. And so, like, if there's actually not going to be coalitions forming during an election year, trying to get out the vote, I really don't know what we're doing. When I look back in history, in 1968, when the BSU was formed, they had a week-long sit-in at STAMP, a voter registration table. So I'm really not sure why we don't all see this as something that's important. Aniyah and I actually traveled to Georgia in December of 2020 to go help out with the Senate runoff. We actually were able to meet we're able to meet John Ossoff and Warnock. And so I think it's very telling that the other organizations on campus like didn't do anything like that. I really wish they would, though. That's all I'm going to say about it. But yeah, Preventing Sexual Assault, PSA. We also work with Mary Perg. That's another organization, the Maryland Public Interest Research Group. They have a bunch of campaigns, and we support them in all of them. And the Prison Resistance Project, they were extremely active, giving out a lot of information about abolition, about the Free Wilmer just case, and a lot of different stuff that was necessary. No other organization was doing it like them. So those are mainly the top 3 organizations that Black Terps Matter has worked with on UMD's campus. But we've also worked with departments to do things like give out grants. We had a vital signs grant program, the recurring grant program. So every single semester, we're going to be getting out five $500 grants. Yeah, so Micah, ODI, and the Clarice. So we established a grant program with them, and so now that's going to be recurring once a semester. It's the Vital Signs program, and so I'm really excited about that. But and through and I wish I could say more, but we don't have too much time. But there's just so many different ways that Black Terps Matter has been able to collaborate. We've collaborated with the business school. We did a virtual benefit concert. Students literally just reached out to us and said, we want to host through your Instagram page a talent show, and then basically allow people to donate. They raised over $500 in one day, or like in 2 hours. And that was to benefit a nonprofit in Prince George's County called 100 Black Men of America. So there's so many different, collaborations. We are never hesitant. We basically never said no to anyone. So, and that's what I want to continue with Black Terps Matter too. There's no reason that we shouldn't all be able to work together. So you want to talk about the DC organizations?
Yeah. And also speaking a little bit on like the importance of having these student organizations, it definitely gives a space for students to feel like they can like do things. You understand? Like there's a lot of students who don't know how to fight the fight, don't know where to go, don't know what a safe space is. So it's like saying, we have an organization that, you can feel welcomed, you feel relatable, you feel like, you have a team of people working with you. So a lot of the time, when I'm out, it's just funny to see, people are like, oh, are you Aniyah? You're with the Live movement? Like people know, you see like the word getting out on campus and they're like, how can I get involved? Because it's like, you see all this going on and you don't want to automatically think that people aren't getting involved because they just don't feel like it's their problem. I feel like a lot of people just don't know how. Like they just don't know, the best avenue, the best organization. Some people, and just can't, feel
empowered.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing at Maryland too. It's probably a lot of people that want to organize and they just don't know the tips and the tools and everything. So we want people to know that this is not, no one is gatekeeping this. No one told us that we could do any of this stuff.
Right.
No one came to us and was like, okay, now you're allowed to go this place and talk to this person. Like,
exactly.
So we want people to know that most likely no one's going to tell you that you can do this
it's
stuff
open.
Ever.
It's very open. So
except for the ancestors.
Right, exactly.
They already said that we could do it.
But and also an important thing is about like other grassroots organizations here. We are definitely big on like collective action and making sure when it comes to having protests, marches, rallies, things like that, coming together, because at the end everybody's fighting the same fight. A lot of people, and I always like to say this when I'm in an interview, just to clarify the purpose of like Black Lives Matter in regards to the movement. The least that anybody can do is to stop killing Black people. People think that Black Lives Matter just like, means stop killing us. And that's like the minimum that can happen, because that's just like, giving people the right to live. But with doing so, it's like, it was talking about Black education matters, Black healthcare matters, Black housing matters, Black businesses matter. A lot of these things are all under the umbrella of Black Lives Matter movement. So what does that mean? Investing in it, investing your time to figure out how can I help, investing your energy into saying, okay, let me stand in solidarity. All of these encompass the Black Lives Matter movement. And so with me, I'm specifically fighting for racial and educational equity. Other organizations are fighting specifically against police brutality.
Yeah.
Other organizations are geared towards abolition. All of these are to the betterment of the Black and Brown community. So working together makes sense. Working together and supporting each other makes sense. And it's more than just, having peaceful disruptions and having marches and things like that. It's a different, we're stepping into a different time, and a lot of people don't really see it. But mutual aid is an extremely big thing that we do. And a lot of people don't know what mutual aid is, but mutual aid is basically giving aid to inner communities, specifically just talking about the gentrification in DC, wards 8, 7, and 5 is where Black and Brown people have been pushed out. What once was called Chocolate City is close to no more. And even, the Black people that you do see, you're going to see them east of the river. And so it's like, who is taking care of those people? Who are taking care of our people? Who's taking care of our village? And since a majority of society is not going to do so, like the government isn't doing so, people are still waiting for their stimulus checks. And even with that, that's minimum, you know, and we're still fighting for a $15 minimum wage, but still that's minimum. And, you know, you have people who were struggling before the pandemic. So imagine right now with this pandemic happening, it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people. So what do we do as a community, as a collective? We step in and say, what do you need? So we do a lot of mutual aid east of the river, in which we give out, for instance, Saturday, we had a community market / winter giveaway, in which we gave out a bunch of coats, blankets, had free food, and someone dropped off 1,500 pairs of bras, because that's things, yes.
Organic tampons.
1,000
organic tampons.
Wipes. It's things like that, in which it's like, since no one else is going to do it, taking on that responsibility and saying, we're going to do it. And it's like, yeah, you wouldn't think, you know, college students would spend their Saturdays and Sundays in the community. You think, you know, that's a party day. Let's go find something, like let's go have brunch. No, we're literally out in Woodland, you know, making sure our people are being taken care of, because that's how serious it is. That's how hard we take it. And that someone has to do it. So it has to be yes, because nobody else will. And that's like the reality we learned early on. So it's like, it's not just, you know, when people say we're radicals, or people say, just there's different things that we have been called, like in media, and just trying to create the optics, but we're taking care of us. And that's just point blank period. Whether that's uplifting our voices, continuing on the fight that our ancestors died for in the backwoods, being chased by dogs. Literally, we're continuing on this fight. We have to continue to protect us, because society has proven time and time again, they're not going to take the time out to do so. They're not going to reallocate the resources to do so. So we have to sacrifice our Saturdays and Sundays. We have to fundraise. We have to go and buy hygiene supplies and toiletries for these communities, because they are our people. We have to do so, because again, nobody else will.
Yeah. Yep, that's a fact.
I mean, I just have to say how terrific and amazing this is to hear about, and especially to hear about all of the different levels of engagement, meaning of different approaches that you're taking, different places, thinking about gentrification in the city alongside, let's say, things that are happening on campus. And I imagine to people listening here that they want to hear more. They want to only know more about sort of, oh, well, where is the mutual aid meetup, and or what is the next campaign happening on campus? So before we go to questions from the audience, I was wondering if you can tell a little bit about recommendations as to how people might get involved. I totally appreciate, though, also the reminder not to wait for permission, that people just need to go out and make actions on their own and work in coalition. But if people want to become involved in some of these specific projects, if you want to share more about them or tell us how people might be able to get involved, that would be great.
Yeah, so the Live movement, we actually have a website in which you can visit and join. And also our social media is up and running. I've been blessed to have a team of warriors that literally, like, day in, day out. I have a media crew, I have a legislative crew, a department, I have community outreach department and an execution department. And they all have committees in them. So it's like, you know, whether you're best with editing, creating policy, or whether you would rather be boots on the ground and help with mutual aid, or whether you want to be organizing our marches and rallies, there's places in the movement that's open to have people, you know. We have to be a well-oiled machine, and that takes, you know, people with the same passion, same drive, same consistency, same dedication. So we have social media on Instagram _the Live Movement, and Twitter, the Live Movement, except for the T is a 1. And I'll put that in the chat as well. But yeah, our website is on our Instagram and our bio. And even when it comes to donations, like, we're college students, so this stuff, we cannot afford to have it come out of our pockets when we're trying to just stay afloat. So the community has definitely been helping, but we need continuous support. So we have a GoFundMe that helps with our Village project. That's basically a series of mutual aid. So we've had Holiday Edition, where we gifted 100 kids with gift packages in Southeast DC. And we have the community market And we're embarking on another project called Secure the Bag, where we're trying to secure 25 jobs for our people who have criminal records, because that's the biggest barrier for getting jobs, is when you leave prison, and that weighs a lot in our community. So all of this, that we have these amazing ideas, we have these amazing visions, we definitely need the community support, even if it's monetary with time, through energy, and all of that is on our social media and on our website.
And so I want to reiterate that we're going to be doing this stuff regardless of if anyone supports us. I think that's important to note. And I think we also don't get to say it enough. There has been no continuous support, like, since everyone was out in the streets protesting and everything like that, standing in solidarity. I've always kind of had an issue with standing in solidarity, because at the end of the day, there are disenfranchised, marginalized communities that need things. They need resources, they need support. So I appreciate when people stand in solidarity, but it has to come with some acknowledgement to the fact that there's actual physical work and continued work, month after month after month, that we have to do. We have to get up out of our beds and decide to do this work. So, but I appreciate when people stand in solidarity. And yeah, back to what I was saying. This is going to happen regardless of people support us. This is going to happen regardless of people support us. But I do appreciate, everyone wanting to support us. For Black Terps Matter, you can follow us on Instagram at Black Terps Matter. We post the flyers of the events that we have. And we also have a website that I think Tita could probably drop down below. On the website, we have a listserv and we give out pertinent information. So the only way that you can find out the most information and most important information about Black Terps Matter is if you sign up for our listserv. Also on our website, we have a public list of all the emails that we've ever sent out, so anyone can very easily get caught up with what we have said. And I do think everything that we said is important. So I think that people should check that out if they are interested in supporting or getting involved with the movement. Check out our website. On our website, we have different tabs that say different things, like our very recent Black student history of Black student activism, understanding Black Terps Matter. If anyone doesn't understand what the word anti-racist means or why we are organizing, we have a hefty page with a lot of information about organizing and why students need to organize on campus. But we also just have the history of Black Terps Matter on our first homepage. If you scroll down, it shows the pictures from our first protest on June 25th, the pictures from our teach-in on July 23rd. And we have a very important time capsule that we did on November 17th, and that was to commemorate student activism. And so all of the videos that we took on that day, November 17th, 2020, are in a playlist on our YouTube. And I think that everyone should definitely check that out if they care about what Black students, not even Black students, all different students from all different communities across campus. There were 20 people that came out, and I was one of them. So she gave us a nice speech on November 17th, and that also happened to be my birthday. So that's very important to me, because I do consider myself a student activist, and sometimes we have to give ourselves our flowers because no one else will do it for us. And so, yeah, that's how I think that people can support and get involved with the movement Black Terps Matter. Find out what people have to say current day.
Great, thank you. So one of the things that we'll be sure to do, and I'll work with the organizers of this event to do, is to, when this video is posted, to include a lot of these links and information so that people can both learn more and try to activate their involvement. So I am now going to turn to some of the questions that have been received from our attendees, and other people who have questions, please put them into the question section, and then they're being delivered to me, and I'm going to pass them on to our guests. So the first question is, I think, a really interesting one, which is, how can we merge both social and political activism to encourage people who maybe feel very passionate about serving people and the social good, to move that into the political arena, to become then more politically aware and involved? Does that make is that clear, that question? How to take people who have a general concern about the social good and to move them into political action?
Absolutely. So I'm really glad that you asked this question, because we actually me and Nadia, one of the other Black Terps Matter co-founders, we sat on a panel last week with a couple amazing figures in the community. It had the NAACP state president on there, and it also had a Baltimore City Council member, and it had the mayor of Greenbelt on there too. And then it was me and Nadia. So it was kind of crazy, because it was like, we're student activists. Like literally, me and Nadia are 21 years old. Like everyone's older than us by far. But it was pretty cool. And the name of the panel was From Protest to Policy. And so I think that fits into the question that you asked. Because of that panel, I've been thinking about it a lot. In that panel, I was actually able to hear from the city council member, Baltimore City Council member specifically, his thoughts on protesting. And I remember I even talked to Aniyah about it, because I was actually upset with what he said, because he actually did not put enough emphasis on direct action. And I hate when people do that. As if all of the amazing civil rights activists that we have lost would not say that's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing. Nothing happens without direct action. So there was a lot of criticism about the protests that happened over the summer, calling them violent when they weren't even. And also, I mean, people always talk about Black people being violent. People always talk about anything that Black people do.
Controlling the optics.
Yeah, being criminalized. Like we're always doing something wrong. I hate that. And so being that we understand, and our narrative is that direct action is extremely important in getting policy passed and advocating on behalf of things. Like we used to be outside of the precinct. Matter of fact, our friend Joella used to be outside of the 4D precinct by herself with a bullhorn, just speaking into her bullhorn.
After the murder of Karan Hilton.
Yeah, after the murder of Karan Hilton, telling them what the police department did, a strong Black woman. And so, I think that she actually had a lot of impact in doing that. And I think that direct action, us organizing for Karan Hilton, when we did that in October, that was actually the week after Tent City when we did that, right? Yeah, the week after Tent City, our 8-day long sit-in, we were out for basically another week at the 4th District precinct. And so it's only because we were able to get out there and other people were able to get out there that NPR actually came, and more news stations actually came. And we actually were able to get a lot of publicity. Now, if you look up his name, you'll see stuff. Yeah. It's not on the level of George Floyd or anything like that, but it's pointing out serious issues in our inner city police departments. For example, specifically with Karan Hilton Brown, there was a no chase policy. There is current day a no chase policy that the MPD in DC has.
And on the footage, it was clearly a chase.
And the police officer chased Karan Hilton Brown on a scooter, on a Rebel scooter, which is illegal. Apparently, he was chasing him because he wasn't wearing a helmet. And that is his excuse still to this day, that the reason that he chased him was but there's a policy specifically against that says specifically you cannot chase people for not wearing helmets, and he did it anyways. And he still has his job.
Not being held accountable. That's the biggest thing, I feel. When it's like, of course, turn your passion into policy, making sure the reason why we're out here, it sticks and it makes permanent change. Definitely, that's extremely important. But in order for people to even acknowledge the problem at all, because America has a history of turning a blind eye to social problem, especially when it doesn't benefit the 1%, especially when it doesn't benefit the capitalistic society that we live in. So it's like when we don't have direct action, when you don't have advocacy, when you don't have people disrupting traffic, when you don't have people shutting down highways, you don't get answers. You don't get news coverage. It's like, it's not like we choose to do this. You've driven us to this point. It's like we've asked. We've definitely asked politely. We've definitely waited our turn. We've definitely, done peaceful things. We continue to do peaceful things, but now we're going to be more blunt with it. Now, as we hear different things, for instance, the Senate parliamentarian turning down a $15 minimum wage. That's things, you don't expect. I don't know.
And he's not even elected.
Yeah, people are surprised that some activists and advocates are politically literate and know these things, but that's the reason why we're out here. Like, politics and the things that go on in that realm shows us and reminds us why we continue to do things and what makes advocates different from politicians, because at the end of the day, when it comes to politicians, a majority of the time they have their own personal vendetta. Joe Biden is a perfect example of this right now. A lot of promises while you're having your campaign, but then you secure your position of power, and then it's like, dang, did I really say that? My bad, I didn't mean it for real. And so it's like,
DC
wow,
statehood.
right, like that's not okay. So it's like, yes, these things are definitely important when it comes to changing and passing policies, when it comes to laws being created. But the only reason why changes, especially big changes that benefit the Black and brown people, it only happens through direct action. It only happens when pressure is applied, and the government and politicians are reminded that we are the people that you serve. We're the people that gave you that power, and we have every right to take that power away. These people have to be consistently reminded we're the reason why you have that position of power in the first place. So it's like, if we let people run over us and we literally voted them in, how does that make us look? Like, no, we can't. So we have to continuously be out here. We have to continuously be applying pressure, and it goes hand in hand.
And people forget we are the ones that advocate for people to vote. So we are the ones that tell people to go learn about their elected officials, and we're teaching people about their elected officials. So to assume that protesters and people that organize aren't, I'm not saying that anyone here is doing this, but when people do assume that protest and policy are so different or so far apart, they seem to forget that the same organizers, and I tell them your major.
Political science and administration of justice.
And tell them what you want to do.
I'm going to be a lawyer.
So, and my major is philosophy, politics, and economics. So to honestly sit here and think that there is protest happening with no regards to policy is not giving us any credit,
right,
for simply being Black women and calling ourselves organizers.
Right.
Like, I don't like that. But yeah,
we're really thorough with what we do, and everything we do has a purpose, and it serves a purpose. So it's like, you know, at the end of the day, that's what differentiates us from, you know, people just being out, and of course, you know, standing in solidarity and being the people who actually organize these actions, the people who actually, you know, have to make sure people know once they get there why they're there.
Exactly, call to actions.
It's,
like,
yes, it's
but so many other
different
things too. Like, just for a second, to get into organizing, like, it's literally takes so much to organize, and it's unpaid. So people think that, like, I guess it's priceless. Like, they're like, you never put a price on it, whatever. Like, but Aniyah and I, like, the money, time, and energy that we've put into organizing, and on top of that, the physical, what is it called? You remember when we were talking about how we got beat up by the police?
The abuse.
Yeah, the abuse that we have to deal with. When I tell y'all
the things that people don't even realize that comes with being an organizer, like, some people might think like, oh, like, this is like all sweet or all. I've had multiple bullhorns broken. I've had my lip busted by the police. I've been thrown across BLM Plaza like a rag doll. Why? Because I am exercising my rights in order to, you know, speak on behalf of people who are not able to speak for themselves, like people who are struggling day in and day out, but yet my voice holds so much power that is trying to be muted continuously. It's trying to be shot down continuously, especially being a Black woman. Yes, we're going to cause traction and attention, and they do not want that to happen. Historically, they don't want that to happen, but at the end of the day, Black women have always been on the front lines of revolutions. We have always been the backbone, and then we will continue to, because that's just how we are naturally, like, point blank period. So, but it's not all sweet, it's not all fun and games. It's not like in the morning we're like, dang, let's just go out and yell in bullhorns. This stuff is very meticulous. Where we do things, how we do things, what time, when we do things. Notice we do marches more in Northwest, but do mutual aid in Southeast. Why is that? More awareness needs to be brought in Northwest, where Black people have been pushed out in. More mutual aid needs to happen in Southeast, because that's where people have been neglected. All this stuff is precise. All this stuff is particular. And we do it because it needs to get done at the end of the day.
Exactly. And that's why the Live Movement focuses on wards
8, 7, and 5.
Yeah, 8, 7, and 5. And Ward 5 is, you know, for me, it hits home, because a big issue that I deal with and try and advocate for is unsheltered individuals. And Ward 5 in DC has the worst issue with unsheltered individuals. It has more people without homes in that ward than anywhere else in DC, in that ward alone. So there's huge issues, and DC itself has the second worst issue of homelessness than anywhere else in the country, and it's not even a state. As a territory, it has the second worst. And so, yeah, we just want to make sure to continuously provide information about these issues, because we understand that these issues aren't necessarily going anywhere. The people come and go, but unfortunately the issues stick around. So we're just trying to make a solid effort at getting to that while we're still here, and we still have the opportunity while we're students.
I really appreciate this reminder of the hard work of organizing and the ways in which you refuse to sort of divide into binaries, the sort of direct action versus policy change, and to understand that different strategies are appropriate at different spaces, at different moments, at different times. They build on a long legacy and they change. So I just really want to say it's very exciting to learn all about this. I want to remind our attendees that we only have a few minutes left, so if they have any more questions, you can put them into the Q&A. But I also want to ask the two of you if there's anything else that you really think that you want your fellow classmates, who are most of the people who are attending today, to know. If there's, what are the takeaways, okay, for them about activism on our campuses in DC, these issues, the sort of dominant issues today, are there additional things that you would like to highlight before I maybe ask another question that brings us somewhere else?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is we're ordinary people at the end of the day. Like, we are ordinary people, and we just felt it was our responsibility to go and step out. And so we did that. There's plenty of people who are in the same movement who have literally quit their jobs. Our brother Kevin, literally, he quit his job and dedicated his life to the movement. And a lot of people, have that same unction and that same passion. But I would say, like, however you can get involved, like, you have to get involved, because literally the movement is created when it's unctioned by the people. A lot of people assume that over the summer with the murder of George Floyd, it was just a trend. And a lot of people were out there for various reasons, whether it was to actually protest on behalf of getting justice for him, or whether it was to snap pictures, whether it was to tell their friends that they went to a protest that day, or whatever the case may be. That was the reason. And now we're almost a year in, still fighting to get justice for this man. But the realization is people were murdered before George Floyd, and people have continued to be murdered after him. This is not like a one problem, boom, everything just exploded.
Ever.
This is a continuous thing that's happening, which means what? We need continuous support. We need continuous voices speaking out, because without that, there's no pressure. The pressure comes from the people. The people have to unite. So what does that mean? Come out. That means, a lot of people make the excuse of it's winter, we don't want to be out. It's good outside now, honey. Right. We feel good. It feels good outside.
See what it's like outside.
So right. Come outside. So come outside with us. Like, it's about the sun is turning up. So you turn up with us, because there's still a lot of people in DC or across the nation who are being murdered every day. Young boys, young girls, kids,
lynched,
kids, like under the ages of 10 years old, being killed. And a lot of this stuff is not making the news, because it's not important enough to get news coverage. It's important to us. So what does that mean? Also, do research, because you can't just rely on Instagram memes. You can't just rely on things being covered, because there's a lot of stuff going on that you probably don't know about. You have to take the initiative to say, let me see what's going on. A lot of people don't know that the trial of George Floyd's murderer was yesterday. What's it? 2 days ago on the 8th. It started. It just did the jury selection.
We need to tap in.
So yes, tap in as students. Tap in and please know, like, don't limit yourself because you're a student. Don't limit your voice, and don't second guess your impact, because I feel like us being young, a lot of people have doubted what we can do until we prove them wrong, and then they were like, dang, they're really about it.
Yeah, don't be one of those people.
like literally, like
Yeah.
put respect in our name. Like we're young, we're a lot of the people in the movement are under the ages of 30, under the ages of 25, but we're doing it. Why? Because we have the passion, the energy, the drive, and we have a perspective that nobody can take away from us. Like a lot of us are seeing a world in which America, the foundation of America, is uprooted, and we created a new one. And that can only happen with youth, because a lot of people have a mind that's molded for 40, 50 years and can't think of America that isn't a capitalistic America. And so it's like it takes a fresh perspective. It takes a young perspective to see what if. How can it change? How could we see America different? How could we really truly depend on us? What will it take to make another Black Wall Street? Well, like what does that take? It takes young, open-minded people to even start these things. It takes the youth. So it's like don't shoot yourself down before even jumping into the ring, because you have people that's here for you, cheering you on. Like it's a supportive group of people who like arms wide open, just one support, and will welcome you and teach you, learn. But the thing is, we're learning every day. There's no guide of like,
she just turned 21 2 months ago.
Just turned 21. I just turned 22. So it's like there's
during the movement
guide.
She turned 21.
There's no guide.
We're learning and growing every single day.
Every day.
All of us.
No one's teaching us this stuff. No one's like, you got to do this. No one taught us how to organize. No one taught us how to do mutual aid. This is stuff we're learning every day. Because how do we learn this? We're in the streets. We're experiencing it. We're seeing it firsthand. We're asking questions.
We're asking questions to the people that have been here before us.
Yes.
But we have to, we have the drive. I think that's the only difference for real. And we're motivated. And I think we get our motivation internally from our family and from our ancestors, really.
Yes, and from God. Like I know that this is literally a part of my journey in life. Like this is a purpose of mine that I have to fulfill, and everything happens for a reason. My cousin getting murdered, sparking that in me, literally. And it's like, I hate that my cousin had to be a martyr and had to be a person, that represents so many lost lives. And just shedding light on the fact that people are getting murdered in their beds. People are getting murdered going down the street for what? Wearing a hood and reaching in his hand for Skittles. Like what? Like all these people are just martyrs and people who represent thousands upon thousands that have died every day and don't hit the news. So come out, help, advocate. There's different.
We always need helping hands.
Yes, you don't have to.
That's how I broke my nail. You want to talk about it? Doing mutual aid, carrying boxes myself. Where are the Black men? Like,
come on. Like that's what we're saying. So it's like, and that doesn't mean you have to be on a bullhorn. If you're a more shy person, that doesn't mean that. You can help with mutual aid. That doesn't take much, but just handing stuff out to people, or like literally being behind the scenes. A lot of my media crew, I've never seen them a day in my life. A lot of my team, they're college students, so all of us are scattered across. A lot of them I never met.
Exactly. There's video editors that work with us and work with some members of our team that live in New Jersey that have literally never been to DC during the movement, but they're finding their lane.
Right.
And they're sticking to it.
Right.
And I appreciate them so much. Or anyone that incorporates themselves into the movement. Like literally, if I ever meet anyone that incorporates themselves into the movement, like openly and loudly, I'm just like, thank God for you, because I'm not really sure where we'd be. But I think that the question that you asked was, what do we want to make sure to tell future students about, like, just as far as advocacy and everything like that? So I want students at the University of Maryland to know that this system will never serve them. Any student activist that wants to come in and make change at the University of Maryland, even if they say that they're going to be on your side, they're not going to be on your side. They're going to try to fight against you. Sorry. They're going to try and fight against you. You're going to be fighting against the administration. It's not ever going to be one person that you're fighting against. It's not going to just be the president. It's not going to just be the VP of Student Affairs. It's not going to be the VP of Diversity and Inclusion or whatever other position that they make up to appease people. It's not, you're not fighting one person ever. You're fighting the system, and we're all fighting the system. So when we do things like we have marches, and I hope people continue to have marches and protests and all types of demonstrations on campus, we are more often than not pointing at the administration. We want the administration to do things, the president's office. But when me and I go out and we do things like Tent City at the U.S. Department of Education, we're talking to the Secretary of Education, we're talking to the president, we're making these big calls, and both of them are very important and both of them are necessary. So I just say that to say that's what we're doing. Those are just two of the things that we're pointing at. But every single different state and every single different public institution has different opportunity, and they have different privileges. So I think that everyone should take the words that we say and apply it to whatever the situation that you're in. Aniyah's at Howard University and she has a HBCU coalition, but at the end of the day, we could have HBCU coalitions all over the place. We could have things like Black Terps Matter, like Black Tigers Matter, there could be like literally everything. Yeah. So make sure that when you hear the words that any organizer says or anyone that's coming to you on behalf of the movement, try and see how you can apply the things that they're saying to your own communities. If you hear, like, we're talking about mutual aid a lot, please look up mutual aid, look up the different forms of mutual aid, look up how you can literally just sit down with your family in your house and make gift bags, 100 gift bags, and drive around. Me and Aniyah used to take the food that we got after the events that we had, and we drive to Union Station. We make sure to give out the food so there's absolutely no food waste. We did that multiple times. We did that when we had the sit-in at Tent City. Yeah. We weren't even supposed to leave because it's a sit-in, but we had the food. We had so much support and love. We had extra food at the sit-in. So we had to make sure to go at like 11 o'clock at night and drive my car to make sure that we dropped off the food. And we also did that on my birthday. We made sure to drop off the food. Anything that you can do. There's so much work that's needed. Anything that you can do. Options.
Well, this is the stuff of beautiful revolutionary change, and so thank you. If we might spare 5 more minutes, if you can, I would like to recognize one more question that did appear from the audience, if you have that I would like to be able to have with us, and then we can close up from there. So somebody asked, how do you both personally maintain hope and energy when participating in activism? The person writes, as a Black student, I'm wondering how I can dedicate my time while maintaining my mental health when I feel crushed by the events. I know you've already provided a model of some of these things, but I'm wondering if we can address this question as we close out.
Well, shout out to Black Terps Matter. Shout out to Black students on here. That's lit. And I will definitely answer your question.
Yeah, so that's definitely a serious question, and that's something that you have to consider and contemplate once you jump in. Because I know that when we jumped in, we definitely didn't expect for it to be such an emotionally draining. It's like you go out with passion, you never really think, what is this going to cost emotionally? There has been plenty of times I've come home and I've cried. Like, I just had to shut off my phone and cried. Times where I couldn't get on social media because it just became too much. Times where I had to take like a week or two break. This has definitely taught me the importance of self-care and taking time to myself and understanding. It's sad to say, but the fight is always going to be there, regardless of whether you take a day off, 2 days off, 3 days off. It's going to be there. A month off. People have to go on month sabbaticals. Why? Because if you are literally going toe to toe with police at night and white supremacists and being terrorized on a regular basis and literally continuously being shown that the world views your life as lesser than other people's, that's going to take a lot out of you. Like, emotionally, that's going to take a lot out of you, and have to go home after that and realize you're fighting so much and it seems like not a lot is getting done. But what reminds me and what motivates me is I'm literally just coming in where my ancestors left off, and a lot have sacrificed their lives to do this work. So who am I to say this is too much for me when it was never too much for them? And I know that there are probably times in which they questioned, is this really how I want to spend my life? And because of how their life was laid out, the answer had to be yes. Like, this is how they chose to dedicate their life. This is how they chose to spend their life.